welcome. I'm so glad to be out here at the Emergency Operations Center. Want to introduce everyone, for those of you who do not know, our Director of Operations Management for Marion County, Preston Bowlin. And I wanted to make sure that we had time to be here together in this great space behind us, because as we were talking before this, a lot of people don't know this fantastic space and what happens. It's hurricane season, but it's not just about hurricane season. But if you could share with our Marion County Public Schools staff, employees, but also our community more about the work that goes in behind the scenes on any emergency. So why don't you jump in, and then I'll ask you a few questions about that.
So as Dr. Gullett said, this is the Emergency Operations Center for Marion County, located here at the Marion County Sheriff's Office. And this building was built in 2011. It is rated for a Category 5 hurricane for 165 plus miles per hour. Everything in the EOC is redundant to communications, to power. So as power comes in, so if we lose power, we also have two big, large CAT generators that can run the Emergency Operations Center and everything inside, air conditioning, water, all the computers. We have a large UPS system, so we don't even get a blip of damage here at the
Unlike
operations.
the rest of us, right?
So we can, even if we lose power and our generators come on, we can actually run up to almost 11 to 14 days full power, air conditioning, everything without refueling.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
So
up to 2 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Because both those generators, they alternate power.
Okay.
And so again, as you look around the EOC, there's nothing on our roof for it to blow off, none of our antennas. So everything was built to withstand, like I said, 165 mile sustained winds.
Right.
So within the building, this is where we operate continuity of government. So, our bread and butter is hurricanes. That's kind of what everybody kind of refers to emergency management as the hurricane people. But the emergency management is, this EOC is fixed to where it could be civil unrest, it could be cyber attacks, it could be a tornado, it could be any type of natural or man-made disaster that affects the government in the operations of services for all of Marion County, the 3 cities and 2 townships, to where those of I won't say importance, but those of decision makers will all come in here during a storm. We'll have over 200 people, decision makers here in the EOC that are making decisions, and those are the ones that we need. If you have to call somebody else to get an answer, we don't need that person in here. We need the decision makers in here. So during a storm, during hurricane preparations, public works, our law enforcement, our fire service, they are all in groups. We call them ESFs, or for emergency service functions. We got school board with transportation and sheltering, with human services, Salvation Army, our NGOs, animal services. Then as you kind of move around behind the screen, that's where our public works, our road departments, and there's a representative from all 3 cities and both townships to represent, those essential positions to be able to keep government working before the storm, during the storm, and then in recovery and response as well. So that's where we all come together, our elected officials, our governing bodies, our policy group makers. We're all in here before the event, after event, and then it's however long it takes for us to mitigate. So we have in that back corner back there we have our ham radio operations rooms. Those are ham radio operators. They're all volunteers. They've all been vetted through the state. They are all deployable. They are every Wednesday. Matter of fact, they were in here this morning. There's about 15 or 18 of them. They come in, they test their radios, they talk to Tallahassee, State Watch Office, they talk to Washington, D.C., military communications, with our military, our hospital ham radio operators. So again, they also talk with other EOCs. So Nassau, St. Johns County, Flagler County, Suwannee County, Lake County. Sumter County is, so if our cell phones go down, if our 800 megahertz goes down, they're able to communicate, and by their communications over radios, it can send it out as emails as well. So they're attached, so anytime that there's a major event, we have our ham radio operators out in the field to be able to communicate back here to the EOC as a secondary some of communications.
Well, thank you for the introduction of this space, and I know we'll show some other footage while we're airing this, because there's other conference rooms. And so start to finish, you talked about the space and time, the ramping up. Let's just take Hurricane, for example. Watching as we've come and we've met in here in smaller groups and larger groups, and then all of these seats are filled. The organization is a well-oiled machine, Preston, and what an incredible partnership that we have with you. And I'm grateful on behalf of the school district for our partnership, because we'll talk about shelters in just a moment, but the representation in this room and the collaboration and I'll call it the orchestration, the way that you direct the agenda and ask for input from the different entities, municipalities that are here represented, the different needs, is all very, very well organized. And so for folks that are coming in new, they know, there's a place and a voice for everything. So all aspects of the community are covered. And so representing the largest employer in the district, and of course our 45,000 students, this has a direct impact throughout the whole district, right? But so well organized, and again, we appreciate the partnership. Can you talk or kind of walk us through a little bit with that hurricane? So it is hurricane season, and I know already there's a prediction of it being on the high side, I think even with major hurricanes, but in terms of storms in general. But what goes into gear? Because once the hurricane's identified, can you walk us through that? Because I don't think everybody understands the work that happens before we have to, unfortunately, make an announcement, say, we're going to have to close a school, and why we need a shelter.
So I can talk to you for about 2 hours on this, but just kind of going into it.
I know.
And I give you the example is, even once we get through this hurricane season, once hurricane season's over in December, we already start planning. And as we look at plans from this last year, from storms previously, we are continuously updating our plans, and things pop up. And I'd give you an example, even as of today. We were working with our other community partners to be able to assist with post-sheltering for special needs. Working with one of our local churches is how to transition to get kids back in school. So again, we were writing memorandums of understanding today to be able to, working also with the city, and all our partners. Emergency management, I can't do it all here just with our staff here. It takes partnerships and it takes collaboration, and this goes on all year long. And just kind of an example, I know we were going to talk about shelters, but again, as that partnership with the school board is an example, is we had that all hazard MOU with the school board, and we had already planned as if we ever had a major event. It could have been, whether it be a shooting at a mall, or maybe at a movie theater, but like the school bus or the farmer's bus accident, as we called, it was in our plans. We already had plans and talked about, if we ever needed assistance with transportation, is to be able to call the school board, and everything that we put in our plan worked, flawlessly during that event. And, timing and everything worked out. So those are the kind of things that we do. We're big planners here, and working, with the school district, for sheltering, for transportation. But we have to collaborate with all our partners, as and it's about knowing people and knowing what their resources are, and being able to be good partners to be able to assist.
And being able to bring everybody together to have those conversations, right? How we make that work. It's a great illustration too.
So getting back to shelters, which is our big, bread and butter. That's what for emergency management in the school district is. A lot of people ask me, how does that process work? So, as again, we've already planned. We've been planning for years on how to, do this and implement these plans. But every year we meet with the school district and our transportation partners, for just that sheltering piece with the Department of Health, because they're a big, component of that. And what we do is we have a command room that we usually will bring those partners in, and we discuss what's happened in the past, what is new, what's new trending, how can we make this process better, and going out and baking out our plans and saying, hey, we need to do some dry runs, prepared, during the summer when the kids are out of school, to make sure that new staff, new personnel, they're able to come in and we can seamlessly, within 48 hours, be able to make that plan happen.
Right, because once it's activated, everybody already knows what their roles are, which is really where the power is, right? Everybody already knows what's going to happen when those decisions are made.
Right. One of the things that we do at that point is now we start predicting how many shelters do we need to open up. We know we need to have schools with animal-friendly, pet-friendly shelters. We know we're going to have to do special needs, but depending on if it's going to be an Atlantic storm, if it's coming in off the Atlantic, we know we've got about 70 miles of buffer of land, how that's going to break down before it gets here. Is it going to we've had a couple storms where it just affected the forest. Nothing in Denellen was detected. Is this a Cat 5 coming in at Crystal River? How that impacts how many shelters we open. We are the 5th largest county in the state of Florida, so the weather that we experienced in Irma was different in Pedro than it was in Citra.
And when you're looking at those weather conditions, I think this is often misunderstood. What drives the opening of shelters?
Right. So weather, demographics, there's a lot of factors that have to play into
and wind and water. Can you talk about those factors?
So water, we're pretty fortunate where we are geographically in Marion County.
So even if it's going to rain a lot, that's not a factor, because some people think.
So actually that it has come to be a factor, because if it's a slow moving storm with a lot of precipitation and where it's coming off of and what side of the eye that we're on, that does make a difference, where we may not have surge or those type of, but we do have from a lot of precipitation that,
and low-lying areas.
Low-lying areas, for 24, 48 hours.
Yep.
So those are all the things that we take into consideration. We do have a National Weather Service meteorologist that will actually come and stays in this office right here in front of us, and they're the ones that are helping us, guiding us to make decisions, in our policy group meetings, to be able to help guide us to make the right decisions.
And tracking it around the clock.
And basically is, basically 4 to 5 days, my staff goes to a level 2 activation where we're in the EOC longer. We're having those meetings with the state and with meteorology throughout the night, and we're, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, checking weather patterns, anything changes, speeds and stuff like that. And then by that time, we know that we are within 48 hours, then we will go to a level 1 activation, and that's when all these seats will get filled. We start putting all our plans together, and then, because basically we need, depending on when that storm will hit, at what time of the day or night, because we have to transport, those with special needs, and we can't be doing it in the middle of the night. So sometimes our decision.
And not in the middle of the storm.
Right. So we have to be able to back that up at least, 36 to 40 hours before we start feeling the effects, where we have to start shutting down our school buses, for the safety of the drivers and those that they're picking up. So those are all decisions, that has to be made, and why we do what we do.
And all the shelters in Marion County are schools.
Right. So all 14, because again, as understanding is, and not every school is a shelter.
Right.
Because of when they were built, their wind speeds, the construction, deterioration, there's a lot of things that come into play, and what's the best fit for that school, and the state actually has to approve what schools.
Not all schools are shelters, but all shelters happen to be schools in Marion County.
Correct.
Yes, and so therein lies, when you talk about getting people to safety before the storm, has a huge impact on when we have to close down school and open a shelter. And so I think that time period, and we are in close communication and talking about that all the time, and sort of leveraging that balance of don't close too soon, you can't close too late. So, and I'm very protective of our students' instructional time, so I appreciate the partnership we have in understanding that, but also in how do we serve the whole community.
So two things is important when it comes to sheltering, especially in timing. general population, those general population of people, if they can drive there, they got somebody to drop them off, they're just putting down sleeping bags and, into a 10 by 10 little square.
Yes.
We can do that, open up a school within 8 to 10 hours, pre-storm. Right. It's the special needs that takes the time and planning, because we have to bring in special equipment, oxygen, making sure we have generator power, all those things, and we have to transport a lot of them to those shelters.
Yes.
And again, the size of our county, over 1,600 square miles, it takes time, planning, routing, getting them on the bus and getting them there. So that's the timing that is really essential for us to be successful for protecting of our residents that are of special needs. Now, going back to what you said, I am just as much in tune with wanting to get schools back open.
I know you
because
are.
there's a lot of reasons for this.
I know you are.
As one is when there's a lot of power outages and damage to homes, the kids are a lot safer.
Yes.
If they're in the school, they're getting fed, they're getting meals, and then the economic part of that is also is if Johnny can't, there's nobody to watch him.
Correct.
Mom and dad are going to stay home from work.
Correct.
And that's a big thing on our workforce to try to get
Absolutely has a
to recover,
huge impact on the workforce.
For mitigation,
Huge
to get back to
impact.
normalcy.
Yeah.
So again, if anybody sees it, I see
I
all
know
aspects of
you
it.
do.
So
I know you do.
yeah.
And like I said, it's been a great partnership. So
Yes,
I
ma'am.
appreciate your leadership and all the years I've been here so far, finishing 4 years. It's just been my
Seems
pleasure.
just like yesterday.
It does seem like just yesterday. It's been such a pleasure to work with you, and I really value the partnership that you've had with us, and just wanted to have everyone have a glimpse of the work and hear about that work that happens behind the scenes that sometimes people don't realize, because it does have a direct impact on our students, their families, and our community. So
there's a lot of things, like I said, there's just a lot of emergency management. A lot of people don't know about what we do in emergency management, but there's a lot of programs, there's a lot of websites. Alert Marion, notifications is that if everybody needs to get on alertmarion.com, sign up. That's how we do our emergency notifications for all our
everybody
residents.
who's listening, when they hear this, Alert Marion is what they need to go to.
Alertmarion.com. That's how we push out. So it's not just weather, but if there's a gas leak, which we had one today, if we had to do evacuations, we can push messages out. If there's an active shooter in the area or at a school, we can push messaging out to the community, to all of Marion County, or geofence around a certain area of Marion County. Right. As you see of literature here, we've got a lot of information on hurricane preparedness, important phone numbers. If I encourage anybody, whether it be school district employees, staff, if they want to take a tour, they want to have a meeting here at the emergency management, we welcome to be here to understand what we do and how we can assist other divisions, other partnerships, and we learn from each other. And even to the public, if they want to come down and see emergency management and about the different programs and volunteer programs that we have, again, it's all about partnerships.
Yes, it is.
Thank
you. And we'll share the Alert Marion on the screen too, because we have a lot of new community members, new people that are new to Marion County all the time, new employees coming in. So we'll share that information with those who may not know. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for all
Thank
that
you.
you do.
Yes,
Appreciate
ma'am.
you.